Welcome, dear listener. If you enjoy tales of the macabre, be sure to like, share and subscribe. New nightmares await you every week. The Scent of Lavender and Blood. A true crime horror story inspired by Leonarda Cianciulli. Chapter 1. The Letter. The candle flickered as I sealed the envelope, the wax pooling around the pressed seal like a crimson tear. My hands, still sticky with ink, trembled slightly, the weight of my words settling into my chest like a stone. Dearest sister, by the time you read this, I will be far from Correggio. A new life awaits me, full of promise and adventure. I have been offered a wonderful position in Florence, can you imagine? Me, a secretary for a wealthy businessman. The journey ahead is long, but my heart is light. Know that I am happy. Know that I am safe. Safe. The word lingered in my mind, twisting in my stomach like an undigested meal, curdling like spoiled milk. My fingers hovered over the parchment for a moment longer, as if I could take it back, rewrite it with something truer, something less final. But it was done. The ink had dried, the wax had cooled. I placed the letter carefully on the small wooden table beside my bed. The candlelight cast long, wavering shadows across the walls, making my tiny rented room feel even smaller, like a cage whose bars I had only just begun to notice. Correggio had nothing left for me. No husband, no fortune, no future. Only memories I wanted to forget, until her, Leonarda Cianciulli. She had been kind to me, a warmth in a place that had grown so cold. She always smelled of sugar and almond oil, always had a kind word, always welcomed me into her home as if I were family. When I spoke of my troubles, she listened without judgment, her dark eyes filled with understanding. She had a way of making the world feel smaller, simpler, safer. And now, thanks to her, I was leaving this town behind. A better life awaited me, or so I believed. I sighed, running a hand through my hair. Outside, the streets were quiet, the town already asleep. I should sleep too, but my mind was restless, filled with the possibilities of what lay ahead. My future stretched out before me, uncertain and thrilling. Yet, as I lay down, staring at the ceiling, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that somewhere in the deep stillness of the night something was waiting, listening. Chapter 2. The Last Day. The morning air was crisp, carrying the scent of damp cobblestones and the faint, lingering aroma of yesterday's bread from the bakery down the street. The town stirred awake in the soft glow of dawn, merchants setting up their stalls, a lone cart rattling over the uneven road. A woman called out to a child, her voice lost in the distant toll of the church bell. I walked slowly, memorizing the way the town looked in the early light, knowing I might never see it again. My path took me past the piazza, where the fountain gurgled softly, past the old church whose bells tolled each evening like a heartbeat beneath the sky. I had spent many nights here, kneeling before the altar, whispering prayers I wasn't sure I believed in anymore. I stepped inside for a moment, letting my fingertips graze the worn wooden pews, the cool scent of incense lingering in the air. Please let this be real. Please let this be my chance. Outside, the world moved on without me. A man wheeled a barrel of apples past a yawning apprentice who swept dust from a shop's doorstep. The same routine, the same people, the same lives playing out in an endless loop. But not for me. Not anymore. I thought about the past year, how difficult things had become, how many nights I had gone to bed hungry, how often I had woken up feeling like I was drowning, trapped in a life too small for me. When Leonarda had taken my hands that day, when she had whispered about Florence, about a fresh start, I had felt something crack open in my chest. Hope, a dangerous thing, but I clung to it anyway. At the edge of town I paused. The road ahead stretched long and empty, the hills rolling gently toward an unseen future. I could almost hear the distant whistle of the train calling me forward. Yet I hesitated. Would I miss this place? The creaking shutters, the uneven streets, the lavender fields in the summer breeze. I shook the thought away. Nostalgia had no place here. The future was waiting. I took a deep breath and stepped forward toward the home of the kind woman who had promised me a new life. Chapter 3. The Kind Woman. Leonarda's house was small but full of life, full of warmth, full of her. The walls, painted in soft, earthy tones, bore the marks of a well-lived home where laughter had settled into the very wood. Bundles of dried herbs hung from the rafters, their scent mingling with something else. Cinnamon, yes, but also something heavier, something almost metallic beneath the sweetness. It clung to the air just beneath notice, like the memory of an old wound. The scent of cinnamon and something sweeter, something richer, curled through the air as I stepped inside. The kitchen table was set for two, steam rising from a teapot, golden brown pastries stacked neatly on a ceramic plate. A candle flickered near the windowsill, its flame bending slightly from the draught that slipped in through the cracks of the old wooden shutters. She greeted me with an embrace, her hands soft, her apron dusted with flour. There was strength in her grip, a quiet certainty that made me feel for a moment as if I truly belonged. "Ah, my dear, you are glowing. Excitement suits you." She gestured toward the table, the gold of her wedding band catching the light. "You must eat before your journey. Travelling on an empty stomach is bad luck, you know." I smiled, sitting down, allowing myself to sink into the comfort of her presence. There was something deeply soothing about her voice, a motherly lilt that wrapped around me like a warm shawl. It had been so long since anyone had fussed over me, since anyone had truly cared whether I was eating well or sleeping enough. Outside, the sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows against the walls. My train would be leaving soon. I traced my finger along the rim of the delicate teacup in front of me, feeling the fine cracks along its surface. "Your things are packed?" I asked. She hesitated, just for a fraction of a second. "Oh, that!" She waved a hand dismissively. "Just some supplies. Soap making, you know." Soap. She was always making something, candles, soaps, little charms of twisted twine and herbs. Gifts for the neighbours, gifts for me. Small tokens of kindness, pressed into my hands with a knowing smile. I reached for a pastry, breaking it apart. Warm, soft, slightly darker than I expected. The filling glistened, thick and syrupy. Something about it felt different. "This is delicious," I said, my voice lighter than I felt. She beamed, eyes crinkling at the corners. "A special recipe." I took another bite. And another. The warmth spread through me, thick and slow. My eyelids grew heavy, my body sinking deeper into the chair. The candlelight shimmered, stretching unnaturally at the edges of my vision. The world softened, and then the edges of my vision darkened. I tried to lift my hand, but my fingers wouldn't obey. The voices from the street outside faded, swallowed by the silence creeping in around me. Leonarda watched me, her gaze steady, her lips curved into something between a smile and a sigh. "Shh, my dear," she murmured. "It's all right. Just rest." Her voice was the last thing I heard before the darkness took me completely. Chapter 4. The Moment of Silence. The wooden floor was cold. I didn't remember falling. My body felt strange, numb, weightless, as if I were floating just above myself. The world around me pulsed in and out of focus, shifting like candlelight in the dark. My breath came shallow and slow, the rhythm unnatural, as though my body no longer belonged to me. My fingers twitched, sluggish, disconnected from my will. Somewhere nearby, metal scraped against wood. Scrape, scrape, scrape. A slow, deliberate sharpening of a blade. The sound was steady, patient, unhurried. A craftsman at work. The noise slithered into my skull, mingling with the slow thump of my pulse. I tried to move. My limbs did not respond. The room was quiet. Too quiet. The sounds of the street, voices, the distant clatter of a passing cart were gone, swallowed by the thick hush that pressed against my ears. The candle flames flickered, bending toward me as if something unseen had exhaled. The air smelled different now, not of cinnamon and sweet pastries, but of something metallic, something thick and wrong. A shadow moved beyond the table. Leonarda. She was humming. A soft, lilting tune, something that might have been a lullaby. It should have been comforting. Instead, it curdled the blood in my veins. The melody coiled around me, wrapping tight like ivy, creeping through the cracks in a rotting house. She turned, and in her hand, an axe. The firelight caught the blade, a brief glint of silver before she stepped closer, her shadow stretching long across the wooden floor. She knelt beside me, stroking my hair. Her hands were warm, always warm. Shh, shh, my dear, it's all right. Her voice was soft, almost motherly. Her fingers traced a slow path down my cheek, gentle, affectionate. "This is necessary," she whispered. "A mother must protect her child." Somewhere in the haze I remembered her son, the one going to war, a life for a life. Her face was calm, so terribly, terribly calm. Her dark eyes shimmered with something deep and unknowable, something ancient and unwavering. I wanted to scream, I wanted to run, but my body betrayed me, leaving me trapped in its useless husk, forced to watch as she lifted the axe. The weight of it made her arms tense, the muscles shifting beneath her pale skin. She adjusted her grip, steady, practiced, precise. The blade caught the candlelight one last time, flashing like a signal in the dark. I saw my own reflection in it, small, helpless, frozen in that final moment. The last thing I saw was her hands, so steady, so sure. Then, darkness. Chapter 5. The Aftermath. No one asked questions when I disappeared. My letters had already been sent, my words, my own hand, assuring everyone I was far away, happy, safe. My friends, my sister, they read my words and smiled, imagining me stepping off a train into a bright new future, never realizing that my journey had ended before it ever truly began. No one knocked on Leonarda's door. No one noticed the faint metallic scent that clung to the air around her home, seeping into the wooden beams, curling in the fabric of her skirts. No one saw the metal basin filled with blood, the way it had darkened and thickened overnight, congealing into something unrecognizable. No one heard the slow, rhythmic stirring, the long wooden spoons scraping the sides of the great black pot as she hummed that same soft lullaby. No one saw her lift a ladle, bringing the mixture to her lips, tasting, adjusting, perfecting. No one noticed when, the next morning, the kind woman with the dark eyes and warm hands handed out freshly made soap to her neighbours. Bars, smooth and creamy, wrapped neatly in twine, infused with something richer, something more lingering than the usual lavender and rose. No one thought twice when they ate the cakes, soft and sweet, filled with almonds and citrus, melting on the tongue like butter. No one questioned why, for weeks after, Leonarda seemed stronger, more vibrant. Why her skin glowed as if lit from within, her laughter softer, her touch gentler. Why she smiled as she watched the children play in the square, rubbing her hands together, inhaling deeply as if savouring something only she could taste. No one ever tasted the difference, and by the time they found me,
There was nothing left to bury.
Sleep well, dear listener, and remember, sometimes the kindest hands are the ones you should fear the most. If you enjoyed this tale, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. New horrors await you soon, if you dare.